What's going on, Orange Nation? This is Neil Adler with another episode of Syracuse Central on the Fan Arch Network. Happy Wednesday. We're halfway home, friends. How's everybody's week going? I'm hanging in there. It's starting to get chilly in the DMV. I'm not really a fan of that. I don't mind cold weather, or at least brisk weather. I mean, I did go to Syracuse for 4 years. I just don't like it when it's like dark and the wind and all the dreariness. Maybe I have seasonal affective disorder. Maybe I should get like some like treatment for that. I don't know. In any event, so yeah, it's getting dreary. It's getting fall like. I do like the fall. But yeah, so we got Syracuse football coming up later this week, but we're gonna dive into some basketball today. We're gonna start out with some recruiting stuff because you all know I like recruiting. All right, so just some quick updates, nothing earth shattering, but just keeping you all in the loop about stuff. In 2026, the 2026 cycle is obviously the cycle that's most in focus right now for the staff and frankly for fans as well, because these are high school seniors and Syracuse is looking for their first commit, although they technically if everything goes according to what I've been hearing, Calvin Russell, the five-star wide receiver, is expected to play for the basketball team, at least initially. Don't know. He's supposedly enrolling early, assuming he signs during the early signing period coming up. And I haven't been able to nail down yet with sources whether he would join the basketball team this year. If he came in January, that would obviously be somewhat midway through the season. But in any event, in terms of basketball only guys, Syracuse is looking for their first verbal commit, and I'm sure some fans are getting a little antsy. But the latest things here are, number one, earlier this week, Dakari Spear, a four-star shooting guard, top 70 national prospect. He was down to Syracuse basketball and Texas Tech. Those were the two schools he had officially visited. He went with Texas Tech, and that I had been hearing up right before the decision that it was looking like the Red Raiders. His official visit to Syracuse went great. He, stayed in constant contact with the staff, as far as I can tell. But he picked the Red Raiders, and he's from Texas. He used to play for the Colony High School in Colony, Texas, and now he's going to suit up for Dynamic Prep, which is a prep powerhouse school in Irving, Texas, and they're also playing. Dynamic Prep is also playing in Overtime Elite, so Spear will be playing against some other Syracuse recruits, although he's no longer a Syracuse recruit. So listen, we wish Dakari well. And this wasn't a huge surprise. So I'll leave it at that. In terms of other 2026 updates, as I mentioned, I think I mentioned a couple times recently, but Asher Elson, the 2026 wing big man with Overtime Elite, although he's from New York City, he officially visited this past weekend. I was told the visit went well. He has taken an official visit to Maryland. I think he might be visiting some other schools here, Ole Miss, possibly Xavier, maybe a couple others. I haven't gotten any sense of a specific decision timeline. But the visit to Syracuse went well. Alan Griffin, and Adrian Autry, just calling these guys by their last names today. Those guys, those two coaches have been in. They've been recruiting Asher for a long time. He is, he's a 4-star prospect. Some places 3 stars. I think he's vastly underrated. He's extremely athletic. Definitely the mold of the 4/5 that Syracuse was recruiting this offseason for the current team. Less traditional, bulky, big man, and more athletic, above the rim, agile, mobile, all that stuff. So we'll see. Asher, I believe Syracuse is one of his top schools. It wouldn't surprise me if he picked Syracuse, but we'll have to see how some of these other visits go. But beyond that, I've talked about Doron Rippey Jr. A bunch, and his visit went well, as I've said on Syracuse Central. He did have an interesting quote when he was at the USA Basketball Junior National Team minicamp. I was texting with his dad this weekend about it, and that went well. And Jamie Shaw of On Three Rivals named him the MVP for the camp, I'm pretty sure. And there was some other Syracuse recruits there. Anyway, so Rippey caught up with 24/7 Sports at the camp because there was media members there, and this was his quote about. He talked about his different schools he's visited. This was the quote on Syracuse. They've been the heart of New York basketball forever. When I went up there, I was able to get a bunch of love from the New York fans, being a New York City kid. I feel like it was great, and that's something that I liked about the visit. And Rippy and his family, really nice family, got to know his dad well. They're from Brooklyn, my mom's hometown. I'll continue to say that I'll pick the field over Syracuse, but I think Syracuse has a shot for sure. And he's a 5-star point guard, top 10 national prospect, just really, really fast rising prospect. So beyond that, I feel like with Spear out, I feel like the three top targets for Syracuse in this class are Rippy, Elson, and Jordan Smith Jr., the 5-star shooting guard from the DMV, who has unofficially visited, and we'll see if Syracuse gets him on campus for another visit before he decides. He's likely to decide in the spring, not in the early period coming up next month. Beyond that, it's a little murky, a little unclear to me. I mean, I've mentioned guys like MJ Madison and Alex Costanza, but I don't think there's a ton going on there, but I could be wrong. I mean, Alex's dad texted me last week and said they hadn't heard from Syracuse since July when Griff and Autry were in for Alex on the AAU circuit. He played for the Puma Pro 16 League this past spring and summer. So we'll see about that. And then I've mentioned on Syracuse Central a couple of 2027 guys that could reclass to 2026. One is Clyde Walters, who also plays in the Overtime Elite. He's from Alabama. He has a Syracuse offer. I've been told Syracuse may try and get him on campus for a visit. So the bottom line is that I don't necessarily think this Syracuse 2026 class at the prep level is going to be real big. Syracuse's 2025-2026 roster for the current or the upcoming season coming up in a few weeks has 13 scholarship players, and 4 of them will move on due to eligibility exhaustion. JJ Starling, Nate Kings, William Kyle, and Bryce Safir. So, that's 9 guys, and you don't necessarily think all of them are returning, but we'll see. And then they could add guys in the portal. And, I'm not saying they won't add a guy or 2 or 3 in the prep level, but just it's still a little unclear. But I would focus on Rippy, Smith, Elson. We'll see. Oh, the other guy I forgot to mention is Vaughn Carvalho, who, 24/7 Sports put out a report last week quoting Carvalho as saying he's a 4-star wing / small forward out of CI Bella Vista Phoenix. And he was quoted saying Syracuse is out. I was told by a source that Syracuse is still trying to get him on campus. So I wouldn't say that Syracuse is a big, is a favorite for Carvalho right now. If they get him on campus, maybe that's a different story. But again, focus on Rippy, Elson, and Spear. And then some of these other guys or reclasses is kind of, possibilities. So we'll see. All right, moving on here. So, with the season only a couple weeks away, we're getting all kinds of preseason polls and fun things like that. And this week I saw a couple things I want to talk about in the next 2 segments. In the first one, we're going to look at the preseason KenPom, which measures like offensive and defensive efficiencies and things like that. And it's a good metric for gauging teams and gauging where Syracuse is at and where the teams they're playing are at, and obviously you've got the net ranking and other stuff. But at KenPom, the preseason version, Syracuse came in at 69 overall, 49 at offense, and 100 at defense. And I didn't expect Syracuse to be super high up in this. They were 14 and 19 last year. I think they're off. I probably should have looked this up. I don't remember what their final KenPom numbers were for last year. I'm sure they weren't good, but top 50 offense, hovering around the 100 at defense. Yeah, that's not surprising. It doesn't mean a lot right now, but I do think I don't know. I think their defense is going to be better. I do. I'm not saying it's going to be like top 25 or top 50, but again, I don't remember what last year's was. I should have looked that up, but I think it'll be better. But, that's the numbers, and I just wanted to pass that along. And then the other thing in this segment we're going to talk about just briefly is the preseason AP Top 25 poll came out, and there's no Syracuse, and that's not expected, or that was expected. They weren't expected to be in it. But I just want to read along some of their opponents. So Houston at number 2, Duke at number 6, Louisville at number 11, Tennessee at number 18, Kansas 19, North Carolina 25, NC State and Virginia receiving votes. Syracuse plays Houston and Kansas in the Players Era Festival, along with a third opponent that's TBD. They got Duke only away, Louisville only away, Tennessee in the ACC SEC Challenge at home. and then sorry, and then North Carolina they have a home and home with, and then I'm totally blanking. Can't remember if they have a. They might just have one each against NC State and Virginia. I don't remember. Sorry. But anyway, the point here is that it's there's they got some challenging games on the schedule, and again, this is preseason stuff, but that Players Era Festival, three games there, and then the homing game against Tennessee. That's I think it's in early December. We'll see where Tennessee's ranked at that point, but that it's a home game, but it still could be like a high quad, whether it's one or two. I think quad one at home is 1 through 30, if I'm not mistaken. Neutral 1 through 50. Yeah. And then road 1 through 75, maybe. Yeah. I'll remember that better for the actual season. But my point is these are some opportunities to get some solid wins, and besides the three in the Players Era Festival, they play Drexel and Philly, so that's a fourth neutral site game, and then the rest are at home because they're playing St. Joe's at home. And a lot of those games, they better win handily, especially when you look at like scoring margins and margin of victories and all those kind of metrics. But Tennessee will be a tough one. So, I mean, I think, I had them over at where I'm editor of Inside the Loud House. I think I had them at 11-2 in the non-conference. That's probably a little bit aggressive, but I think they better go 10-3. I mean, I guess they could go 9. Like, who are they going to lose to? If they lost to Houston, Kansas, Tennessee, and then the fourth team or the third opponent at the Players Era, because that's a loaded field. But beyond that, they need to win all those games. So like 9-4 at the worst. But I'm really hoping for at least 10-3. So anyway, that's the AP poll. And again, wasn't surprised that Syracuse wasn't in it. So on Tuesday. Today's Wednesday. On Tuesday, the ACC preseason media poll came out. Again, not like super surprising. Syracuse is picked 9th. And JJ Starling, I lost my notes here. I believe he was picked. Yes, he was picked for the second preseason All ACC second team, and he got like 2 votes for ACC preseason player of the year. Like the top 2 guys were one of the Boozer twins and the dude from NC State, Darian Williams. Did I get his name right? I probably got it wrong. Anyway, but it was kind of cool to see that recognition for Starling. This is his 3rd year with the program. He's a senior. He played 1 year at Notre Dame. The Field of 68, which is part of On 3 now, On 3 Rivals, whatever. They had Donnie Freeman as a preseason All ACC second team performer and Nate George 3rd team, but no Starling. Look, the bottom line is, these preseason things mean nothing other than it gives me something to talk about. But more importantly, actually, like all kidding aside, George, Freeman, and Starling are presumably the 3 best players on this team, and they're going to lead this team. They got other good pieces, though, but they're going to lead this team. And in terms of Syracuse being 9th, look, they were 14-19 last year, 13-18 in the regular season. What were they, like 7-13 in the ACC? I think 6-5 in the non-conference. So that was a bad season, and for them to be right smack in the middle, I think speaks to that people, they might be like a bubblicious team for the March Madness, but like they're going to be better. So here's the order: Duke, Louisville, North Carolina, NC State, Virginia, SMU, Clemson, Miami, Syracuse, Notre Dame, Wake Forest, Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, Pitt, Florida State, Cal, Stanford, BC. Look, on paper, yeah, I think the top 4 teams are Duke, Louisville, Carolina, and NC State for sure. I feel like some other places, I don't know if it was The Athletic, I feel like I talked about it on here. One of the other major outlets had those 4, then Virginia, and then Syracuse. So I could see Syracuse being in the top 6. And I could see Syracuse being, in the kind of smash in the middle. I don't know. I'm biased because I'm an SU alum and I cover Syracuse, but I don't know. I think Syracuse could be better than SMU, Clemson, and Miami this year, and Virginia for all that matter. I mean, I feel like you got a handful of teams at the top that could end up separating themselves. But again, Florida State in football was picked to win it last year after winning it the year before, and they went 2-10. Clemson was picked to repeat this year after winning it last year, and they're 3-3 right now. And I know it's a different sport, and it's completely not apple or oranges to orange. It's apples to oranges. But you know what I'm saying? Like, who knows? Syracuse could be a top 4 team. I don't think they're going to be in the basement. I think they're going to win 20 to 22 games. I do. Tell me how stupid I am. Seriously, tell me. All right, we're going to wrap up here with something from Seth Greenberg, the former Virginia Tech coach, ESPN analyst, covers the ACC but other leagues. I really like Seth Greenberg. I watch obviously a lot of games on ESPN, the ACC Network, ABC, whatever, and other channels, but I just like him. I think he knows his stuff. Anyway, he had a tweet the other day. He watched a Syracuse basketball practice this past weekend. Here's the quote. The first thing that jumps out is meaning Syracuse, is their backcourt and shot making, but what really blew me away was Sadiq White. His energy and activity, he will impact winning. Heck yeah. Coach? Thank you, Coach Greenberg. Yeah, Sadiq is he was one of the best defensive players in the 2025 class, the prep class. And he was a top 30 overall recruit, and he had a really good year in arguably the country's top league, the EYBL Scholastic. He played for IMG as a senior. He's from Charlotte. And he was hovering around 5 stars for a bit. And his offensive game definitely is a little less there's a little more raw per se, but I can't remember what he averaged in EYBL Scholastic play, but he played in 2 All-American games, and he's a good player, good high school prospect. And I don't, we'll see about how much he and Kyan Anthony and Luke Fennell as true freshmen, how much run they get. But yeah, Sadiq is just a winner, and yeah, he works, and so does Kyan. I'm not saying other guys don't too, but I'm just saying I watch those guys, because I cover high school recruiting, and obviously once they became Syracuse verbal commits and all that, I followed them, and they both played in the YBL Classic. Kyan was at Lehigh on Long Island, but yeah, I think Sadiq could have a nice role this year. Like backing up Donnie at the 4, maybe playing small ball 5, playing big ball 3. That doesn't make any sense. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you could play the 3 maybe too. A small forward, why not? Put him at the 3, put Donnie at the 4, put William Kyle at the 5. Why not? So I'm excited to watch him play. I'm just excited to watch this team play. But yeah, what Coach Greenberg said, he talked about their backcourt and their shot making. Shot making? I don't know. He didn't expand upon that, or at least not that I saw. I don't know if he was talking about like perimeter shot making or like mid-range or just whatever. But that's encouraging because, Syracuse was not a great shooting team last year, especially from deep. But they averaged like, 75 points a game, roughly. They weren't awful on offense. But look, if this team can get their overall shooting, I feel like I don't know, would they shoot 46% overall, 33 from deep, 70 from the charity stripe. They could get it up to like close to 50, 48, 50%, 35 collectively percent from deep, 75% from the free throw line. I think this team will be really good offensively. Obviously need to cut down on turnovers and create their own transition buckets through forcing turnovers. Because their points off turnovers versus their opponents last year was not good. Just like their assist to turnover ratio last year versus opponents was not good. And I think they'll be solid in rebounding. We'll see about the defense. But, between shooting better and getting to the rim, getting the free throw line, transition point, I think it could be, I'm not saying they're going to lead the ACC in points per game, but they could be a good offensive team. Because they got weapons. I really like Nate George. I was not convinced about the point guards last year. No disrespect, but Nate George, yeah. Starling, yup. Kyan, Luke, other guys. Nate King's on the wing. Tyler Betsy on the wing. It's a nice looking roster. Again, we'll see about this center spot with Diawara and Soare and Kyle. They're serviceable, but yeah, the backcourt and the wings look good. If the shot making's there and these guys are just super athletic and getting after it, I think they'll have a good year. All right, that's going to do it for today's edition of Syracuse Central on the Fan Arch Network. I'm your host, Neil Adler. Tell me what you like and what you didn't like. Tell me what you want to see moving forward. If you are so inclined, feel free to hit the subscribe button. Tell all your friends, or don't tell anyone. It's cool. I love you all. I appreciate you tuning in. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. And I will talk to you again tomorrow on Thursday, and we'll get into some more football later this week. Take care, my friends.